differences in the room and also some commonalities, which I found very fascinating. So I commend all of you in that and remind you to please try to stay as positive and constructive as you can in your presentations. Again, information is heard and integrated better when it isn't laced with accusation and blame. So try to stay with it. We'll take a break at 9 o'clock, and I will invite 41 up, please. And if we could have 47 and 48 on deck.
Good evening. My name is Pam Adams, and I live at 4451 Shoreway. Apparently, we don't own our property. We're just leasing it from Sandwich. Because we were unable to attend a meeting in July, we asked to have someone come out and explain to us why the EDPA goes through our home and our yard, how they established it, how it affects our property values. On August the 28th, the manager of Environmental Services, Adriana Pollard, came out to our home. She said the lines were established, and you have all heard this before, by old aerial maps in the 1950s and by boat. There was never any proper study done on our property. Before the EDPA was established, there was already 2 marine backshore boundaries that are on the property, and they extend 30 meters into the property. I don't think this has been mentioned tonight, and I'm actually quite surprised that there were 30 meters before the EDPA lines that were already established. With the 3rd EDPA boundary, it now takes over half of our property. She also told us we do not actually own our property, that we were just leasing it from Sandwich. And that's why I'm here tonight, because of that attitude. We believe that there's no more rare ecosystem on the waterfront properties than there are across the street from us or a mile down the road. If anything, there are less. Winter storms and salt spray are very destructive on our homes, plants, and the environment, and make it very expensive to keep up maintaining. Now is the time to do the right thing. I believe any chaos or costs incurred by the removal of this bylaw at this time would be small compared to the costs and the chaos that would incur if it wasn't removed. I'm not against the environment, and I respect the people whose property they're keeping with the environment. I would like also to protect anything rare. But I think we're not talking about how people use their properties. How, if there's children, if there's farming, all the different ways that people use their properties. And we're not taking that into consideration. We're also not taking into consideration the growing population. When my mother was a girl here, she once told me that there were only 50,000 people in Victoria. There's now close to 300,000 people in Victoria, Greater Victoria. Being in the EDPA does not mean that we're against the environment. And that's all I've got to say. It's short and sweet, but I hope you'll listen. Thanks.
Thank you, Pam. 42, and if I could have 47 and 48.
I'm 44.
You're 44.
I wish I was 44.
So we go, oh, hang on just a sec. So do we have a 42? Or a 43? Okay, good. Sorry, go ahead.
Good evening, Your Worship, honorable members, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Daniel Dorr. I live at 3451 Mayfair Drive. I'm here, I'm opposed to the EDPA as it is and as it has been imposed upon us. I'd like to bring up just a few points that weren't brought up by myself or others last time. And I think it's one of the most important things I want to bring up is it's time to notify the public whose properties have been affected by this. There's so many of them who still don't know that they have a very serious restrictive covenant on their properties. Although it's an unregistered encumbrance, it is an encumbrance, and it's a very difficult encumbrance to navigate through. I'm in the business, I am a developer, the one that everybody's against having here tonight. I totally support the proposal by the society that Ted Lee spoke of. I think it's, even though it says, you know, single out development, single out subdivision, that's how I make my living. That's 3 of the properties that I own are in the EDPA. I still support that. Leave it on for the subdivision. But, you know, the way it is right now, if it's going to be on individual properties, then put it on all of them. Put it on all of Saanich. Why have just a few bad mapping areas, have these people have all this extra expense? It's ridiculous. So what I ask for you tonight is, we've spoken about a committee of the whole meeting coming up. Well, let's send out a couple thousand letters. Put it in their tax assessments. Put it in a registered letter, or put it, registered letters are expensive. Notify properly every single property within the EDPA now. Don't wait another month. Don't wait until everybody else who's working for different groups with different interests, notify those people. You guys have the list. Put staff to work on notifying them properly. You've totally ignored that throughout this whole process. Why? Why does it have to be this? You know, and if you're going to make one person hire a biologist to see if they need an addition on their home, then everyone should have that same process. Okay? If yours is a lawn and garden and it isn't proven through a map, you know, your neighbor was, so you should be affected differently. You have 10 oak trees, they have 10 oak trees, they aren't in, you are in. Where's the fairness? I mean, let's get realistic here. I mean, it's time to admit it was improperly placed upon us. Make those changes. Some of the council members here were not properly informed when they voted in favor of this. I am a steward of the environment. I spend almost all my recreational time hiking our woods, climbing our hills and mountains. I love the environment. In my development most recently, I've planted close to 1,000 oak trees that I propagated myself with my children and my staff on 10 acres. Not on 1,000 acres, on my 10 acres, okay? Yeah, I'm a developer, but I care. Out of 276 oak trees that were on the Rainbow Hill development site, we may have lost 2. 2! And I've planted close to 1,000. Some 3 feet high, some this big. I've got another 500 being propagated to plant on a further phase. I mean, let's just do this right, okay? We all love our environment. It's not just one group called SAFE or one group called the Friends of our responsible people for the responsible EDPA. It's all of us.
You got 1 minute.
Thank you. I think that a team of professionals needs to be put together. You're giving too much power to 1 or 2 individuals at a staff level. It's like giving them a godlike situation. They can't make those decisions. They're not unbiased. That has to be a properly sculpted committee of professionals. To leave that in the hands, like, I'm used to these processes. I've been dealing with it for over 30 years, and I've done well with it. This one is impossible to navigate. You get through one step, they won't accept your biologist report. I've got 2 biologist reports. They won't accept either of them. You know, so let's just put the process in place that we can do this right. I as a developer, please, make me go through a process. I'm used to it. But give me some guidelines. Put the goalposts there so we can follow them properly.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Okay. Number 45. Okay.
Mayor Atwell and members of council, my name is Anita Bull. I live at 4462 Wilkinson Road. I am the president of Saanich Citizens for a Responsible EDPA Society. 9 months ago, Saanich began a check-in on the EDPA bylaw. There have been 2 open houses, now 2 town halls, as well. Staff has hired Rolo and Associates to do an economic study of the bylaw. But staff have never checked in with the environment to see how it's doing. Staff never checked in with the environment 4 years ago when the bylaw was adopted, and they haven't checked in now to see if all this bureaucratic process has done it any good. There is no measure or science to suggest that the bylaw has been successful in its objective of protecting sensitive ecosystems or other ESAs in Saanich. From what I have seen, many patches of invasive species and lawn and garden have been protected instead. Ted Lee, registered biologist, and myself have met with each of you at least once. 2 of you were not interested in hearing what we had to say. You indicated you were happy with the bylaw as it is. You advised that the tree bylaw wasn't doing enough to protect the trees in Saanich, so you needed the EDPA bylaw to take up the slack. For those of you here tonight that are not aware, the non-EDPA properties can remove trees within their building permits. EDPA properties cannot remove trees within their building permits. So were we to understand then that protecting our environment means only to protect the trees in the building envelopes of 2,200 properties in Saanich? Is that it? This is simply not good enough for the future of our environment. We need to do better than that. Many of these mature oaks and arbutus trees, along with all the other trees in Saanich, they're not going to be here in another 100 years. Very few people in Saanich are planting trees for tomorrow. No one wants their property placed in the EDPA with all the uncertainty and negative impacts it brings. Seedlings, in some cases, are being quickly plucked from the earth before they are captured under the tree bylaw. So where does this leave the environment? Failing. The bylaw is failing. It isn't doing enough for our environment. Staff's report to council in September of 2015 stated that 2 local biologists who actively consult in support of EDPA applications indicate that if provincial mapping standards for sensitive ecosystems were used, 99.2% of the properties in the EDPA would not be classified as sensitive ecosystems. It's obvious that the EDPA bylaw forced on 2,200 property owners isn't going to improve these areas of degraded ecosystems, as many property owners will be unwilling stewards due to the restrictions and lack of cooperative approach by Saanich. Other property owners may not have the financial or physical means to steward a sensitive ecosystem. We need to do something better than the current bylaw if we are to have a healthy future environment. Saanich needs to adopt a volunteer stewardship program for everyone in Saanich. Tapping into the larger populace gives us a better chance of improving our environment long term. Such program needs to be driven by science, education, and encouragement. There needs to be encouragement to protect the environment for today and to plant trees and native plants for the environment of tomorrow, without the fear of a bylaw with unintended consequences. Property owners have to be a major part of the solution. We hope you seriously consider our proposal. We've sent it out to all of you. I believe you should all have it by now. We have already started to work with other conservation groups.
You're at 1 minute.
We are willing to work cooperatively with council, senior staff, and conservation groups to achieve a program and bylaw that is fair for landowners and good for the environment. As of about 5 o'clock tonight, we had over 350 people that have signed our petition in favor of this volunteer stewardship program, and that number continues to grow rapidly on a petition that's only been out for 2 weeks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Council, my name is Peter Dozniak, 2700 Queenswood Drive. My family and I live in Cadborough Bay, we do not have a sensitive ecosystem on our property. Please remove our property from the EDPA. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And your number is 47? Okay.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, ladies and gentlemen. Most people affected by the EDPA
Just
are not...
get your name.
Oh, sorry. Miko Ikonen, 3372 Whittier Avenue, Saanich.
Thank you.
Most people are affected by the EDPA are not looking to develop their properties. They're simply regular folks who want to keep enjoying their properties while remaining respectful stewards. There are clearly many problematic aspects to this bylaw, judging by this many concerned citizens attending tonight. As a real estate professional at Sutton Group, I can with certainty tell you if the EDPA stays as written, there will be people who will not inform Saanich when they're removing rare plants or trees from their properties. There's simply no incentive for them to do that or plant new ones. I'm currently in the midst of writing an offer on an oceanfront property which has the EDPA on it, and we need to infringe into the 15-meter buffer zone to apply for a permit to build a house. And the problem that we're running into is that in order to get an answer on the building permit, we need to perform an environmental study on the property at the cost of approximately $6,000. We need full working drawings for a house, at the cost of about $15,000. We also need a full landscape working drawings, cost about $7,000. Total $26,000. We simply cannot have this kind of risk for the buyer, uncertainty, and have them purchase the property and then discover that they're denied. So what we're trying to do is construct the offer in such a way that it is subject to receiving the building permit. They have to risk this money in order to find out if they can infringe into the buffer area, which currently is grass, by the way, and there's no tree canopy. There's no timeline that staff can tell us how long it's going to take to get the answers for this. There's a legal principle in the matter of contracts, which is time is of the essence. There's no way to formulate that when there's so much uncertainty around this issue. It's highly punitive to buyers. It decreases the marketability of properties. And incurring this kind of costs before you know anything, it's very unfair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let's take a break, folks. This has already been a good, long 3-hour stint. Let's take 15 minutes, be back here at 9:10, and I'd like to have